we all know Brookhaven. Despite being a very simple game, it's perfect for creating little stories and making friends. But what if Brookhaven were more realistic? So, in today's video, I'll create the most realistic version of Brookhaven. Well, the thing that catches our attention here and doesn't seem realistic at all is the trees in Brookhaven. So, we can go to the search tab and look for realistic trees. Now, we'll delete this plastic tree and replace it with this realistic one. Let's just increase its size a bit to make it look beautiful. And look, this tree matches so well that it even seems like a real version of this other tree here. And, of course, I'll also remove this tree and put this other similar tree in its place. Right beneath the trees, we have this area that is supposed to be grass. But in reality, it doesn't look like grass at all. So, of course, we need to put realistic grass here as well. But now we'll have a problem with this thing here because if we increase its size too much, you can see it's going to look odd. You see? It will seem like somewhat fake grass. So, we'll have to go the hard way, which is placing each of these grass pieces here, duplicating them until we have the right amount we need. To be honest, our Brookhaven already looks much better than this realistic grass here. Well, another thing I'm going to modify here is basically the ground because as you can see, it's too smooth. So, we just need to add a bit of mud texture here, and it will look much more realistic. Using the same texture tool, we can make the Brookhaven fountain much more realistic. I won't forget the details here because I want it to look entirely beautiful. These other blocks made of bricks, I'll change them to stone because they look more like square ground. Now we just need to paint these green blocks black because there's no such thing as green stone, I guess. The next thing I want to change is the Brookhaven water because I'm sure there's water that's more realistic than this. Our first option here is basically this water that, for some reason, flooded our Brookhaven completely, so I don't think it'll work. Our next water is basically this one that seems to move, but it looks like a tarp, like made of plastic and all. Our third option really looks like real water, but unfortunately, it doesn't move. But still, we can use this water inside this pool because with the Brookhaven water, it would look like it's moving. Look! So now we just need to increase the size of this photo a bit so that it will be completely submerged in the water. And even though it's just a water photo, it already looks much more realistic in this Brookhaven water. Now I'll change the Brookhaven bushes, so we'll remove these square bushes without putting this one that looks very similar to the real one. I'll just increase its size a bit and place it more into the ground like this. Now, just duplicate, and there you go. We have a real bush here in Brookhaven. Well, one thing present in every city in Brookhaven is basically these streets here. Whether we like it or not, they can become more realistic. Nice. And yes, I know it just looks like it got darker, but actually, I added an asphalt texture to this street. Let's do a little comparison. This one is from Brookhaven, and this one is realistic. And despite being laborious, it's actually quite satisfying to see all the streets being modified like this. And as you can see, just by modifying the streets of Brookhaven, it already looks much more realistic. So, I'm going to apply this concrete texture to the Brookhaven arch to make it look more like real construction. Getting up close, you can see that it seems to be made of cement. And I'll also use this texture on everything that's supposed to be made of cement. So, all these parts around the roads, street corners, and even the regular constructions in Brookhaven. Now I'll remove the Brookhaven Mall that is right here. And in its place, I'll basically put a 7-Eleven, which besides being a real-life market, also looks super realistic. I'll just increase the size of the 7-Eleven a bit to make it look nicer in this location. And we'll also replace the Brookhaven gas station with a more realistic one, and I'll put this gas station in its place. I'll place some realistic parked cars here at the gas station, and I'll also put some parked cars here at the 7-Eleven, as if there were customers inside. One thing that bothers me is that we have many of these fake trees in our realistic Brookhaven. So, it's time to change that. I'll replace all the fake trees with realistic ones. And of course, this will take a while, so go ahead and hit the like button while I place all these trees. Well, now I want to modify basically the sky in Brookhaven because it doesn't look much like a realistic sky. So, if we search here for realistic sky, we'll have some interesting options to put in our sky. Our first option is this one, but I thought there are too many clouds. I don't know if it looks much like the real sky. There's also this second sky, but it also looks too much like the normal Brookhaven sky. So, how about we use this third option? This one does seem super realistic, but well, despite having modified all the normal trees in Brookhaven, I still haven't changed the pine trees because they are a different type of tree. Luckily, here in the Roblox studio, we also have this type of tree, but realistic. So, we can simply delete these trees from Brookhaven and put these realistic trees in their place. And of course, putting this other type of tree will also take a lot of work, but it will look very beautiful. Right here next to it, we also have this Brookhaven Brookhaven mountain that we can make more realistic. I'm painting the green and light green parts with grass texture, which will basically make this whole part look more like real grass. And since I already have the grass tool, I'll also turn all of Brookhaven's grass into this more realistic grass. And of course, we'll also make all of Brookhaven's land realistic in this way. I'll first paint these parts of the mountain to make it complete and more realistic, and now we can make all of Brookhaven's land in this realistic texture too. We can't forget to make the Brookhaven beach more realistic. Adding texture to the sand will make it darker, but it will also look much more realistic. Look at this! I'll also make the water on the beach more realistic with the same photo we used in the pool. Just increase the size of the photo a lot like this to make the water on our beach completely realistic. I'll even put a metal texture on the Brookhaven yacht to make it look more like a real yacht. Although honestly, not much has changed. So, I'll delete this Brookhaven yacht and put this yacht here that is much more realistic. But it's too big for this pond, so we have to shrink it a bit. It looks much better this way. Despite making this mountain more realistic, I think we can improve it a lot. That's why instead of this mountain, I'll put a realistic mountain. We have to increase its size a lot and fit it here on the ground like this. Now, just remove what's left of the previous mountain, and it really became a good mountain here. I'll duplicate this mountain and use them instead of these rocks here in Brookhaven. I'll delete this one, and we can just fit this one in its place. And I'll do this in various places in Brookhaven to make it even more realistic. Well, I replaced several of those brown blocks with these stones. I think it looks pretty good. One thing I find unrealistic in Brookhaven is the airport, because as you can see, besides being very small, the plane connected to it practically doesn't exist, as there's no 3D modeling inside. I'll delete this Brookhaven airport and put this much more realistic airport. But of course, we have to fit this airport into Brookhaven in a way that we can enter it. So basically, I have to lower it to the ground here and leave the entrance just on this side. I'll have to delete the Brookhaven farm since it's getting in the way. But at least now we have a large international airport here in Brookhaven. We also have to remove these mounds of grass that are here in the middle. But of course, an airport of this size also needs to have very large planes. The biggest plane I found was this one, which is much larger than that in Brookhaven. So I'll leave it exactly here. I'll also place this other gigantic plane on the other side of the runway. And can anyone explain why there's a divine light coming out of this airport? Look at how bizarre! I even tried to remove all this light here, but look at how difficult it is to find these light blocks. They are camouflaged in the middle here. I'll also take advantage of this open space and put Walmart, which is a real-life supermarket, inside Brookhaven. And our Walmart will be right here in the middle of the avenue because I want people to pass by it obligatorily. So we can just place it like this, and done! Now we just need to remove this lamppost that's polluting our environment a bit here. And look, this Walmart here in our Brookhaven turned out quite well. I'll also remove this small restaurant from Brookhaven and put this realistic McDonald's in its place. Now I'll delete this little hotel from Brookhaven that was here for no reason. And I'll put this large hotel in its place and increase its size a bit here because I want the hotel to look very nice. That's why I fixed everything I found necessary. And now I'll show you the definitive version of realistic Brookhaven. And guys, I just entered our realistic Brookhaven, and man, basically, the first thing I want. Wait, man! What happened here? Okay, this is not normal at all, so we'll have to take another path here because apparently these blocks are falling. Wait, let me climb on top of it. See? Man, it's falling apart. It seems like the water is pushing the fountain here, but actually, I know what's happening. As I made Brookhaven very realistic, there's nothing holding our Brookhaven below the city. And as you well know, a floating city doesn't really exist. And guys, because of these technical problems that occurred here on our map, I took this flying carpet here that will help us explore what hasn't been explored yet. So, as you can see, basically on this side of Brookhaven, I placed some realistic houses that I found. And well, guys, coming here to our airport, you can see that almost everything is normal here, right? Disregarding the ground that came off there and the ground that is floating here. But at least it's a place that turned out to be very realistic. There's even a control tower. There are several points here of the normal airport and such. This place turned out very nice. And of course, we can't forget the Walmart that I also placed here. Right, basically entering this Walmart and breaking it all too. And well, as you can see, this Walmart is really gigantic. There are many shelves and such, but unfortunately, they are generic items. Right, like just some colored squares and such. There's no real brand, no real product. But at least this Walmart matched well with our realistic Brookhaven. And well, guys, unfortunately, the video is over, but there are other super cool videos on the screen that I'm sure you'll like and that are definitely less buggy than this map here. Thank you very much to everyone who watched the video until the end. Leave a like, and until the next video, bye!